We're going to be talking about the colon today, and we're going to be talking about probiotics and how to find a good one. Let me give you a story how important this is. Here's this young boy in California. When he was born, they gave him some antibiotics because the mom wasn't well, and so they just wanted to protect him. And guess what happened? He never had a proper bowel movement for years. The parents took the child to a health doctor. The health doctor said, you need to get on probiotics. Said, don't worry, he is on probiotics. And they wouldn't listen to the health doctor. Well, about 3-4 years later, they went back to this man as doctor. They said, hey, it looks like our child's going to die. The child was getting yellow. It was really, they were battling so much to get this poop out the child, enemas and using any kind of way to get the poop out the child, and the child massive big stomach swollen up, going yellow, all that kind of stuff. And so he said, I want you to try these probiotics. Well, reluctantly they did, got him on them, and overnight they couldn't believe it. The child's life changed. All of a sudden the bowel movement function, and they said, well, what is the difference between the probiotics we're taking and this one? That the other one they've been taking for years, the ones the doctors were prescribing, the most expensive they could find, and this one, all of a sudden, overnight, within 48 hours, the child's life changed. Well, guess what happened? What the difference was? The one that this doctor now recommended was, number one, produced under pharmaceutical license. That means what's on the label is actually in the product. Number two, it wasn't only produced under pharmaceutical license, but it was enteric-coated, target load, be released in the cecum of the large intestine. Now, this is so vital when you're looking for a probiotic, because if a probiotic breaks down in the colon, in the stomach or the small intestine, guess what happens? That environment is too harsh for the bacteria and it kills it. You want to make sure it goes through the small intestine, through the stomach, into the colon, only breaks down the cecum of the large intestine, that's just above the appendix, and that's a very important place because now it can be distributed evenly throughout the colon. Also, the probiotic should be formulated in such a formula that the gel will release a little bit and then keep the probiotics in that, and then as it moves along, a little bit more release, a little bit more release. So it must be dissolved enough for some to come up, but then stay within the gel formulation to be released evenly throughout the colon. And also remember something, one of the jobs of the appendix is to keep probiotics in there. And so first of all, if you don't have an appendix, you need to keep taking probiotics on a regular basis. But if you do have an appendix, you want the probiotics released there so that it can now get a feedlot of probiotics. So probiotics are vital for a whole bunch of reasons. Number one is to keep that bowel movement flowing. And number two is to break down the fiber. And this is really important because while the probiotic is feeding on these broken down fibers called a prebiotic, now all of a sudden it can produce the hormone. While the probiotic is eating those prebiotics, is producing the hormone to fight cognitive thinking, to fight depression, to protect the brain from dementia, to protect the brain from Alzheimer's, to help you sleep better tonight, to help you see the positive in every situation, to give you clarity of thought. And so you want to make sure that you're giving yourself the prebiotics and the probiotic, and absolutely vital. Now, the next thing when you're buying a probiotic, you want to make sure it says on the label at expiry date. Because every time the probiotic says on the label at manufacture, or nearly every time, when an analyzer, what's on the label is not in the product, right? The next thing over, the manufacturer should put prebiotics in with the probiotic. As you can imagine, the probiotic is a living culture. And so now you put this living culture that has to keep eating to stay alive in the container, in the little capsule, and it's going to be sold, and in 2 years' time, or years' time, or 6 months' time, it's going to starve to death. You want to make sure it's getting the right prebiotics to keep it going. Some things to make sure that you're still to tell you whether you're needing a probiotic. If you've got a difficult bowel movement, remember something, that when you go to the bathroom, it shouldn't float. The stool shouldn't float. It shouldn't sink. It should be at a bit of an angle. It should be roughly 1.5 to 2 inches by 4+ inches long. It shouldn't be dribbles and squirts and sprays and little bolkies, all that kind of stuff. It should look like this tube thing down there. The next thing over here, If you're constipated, you want to really increase your probiotics like crazy. It's wonderful for urinary tract infections. I can tell you about a gentleman from California who was on antibiotics for about 25 years when I met him, because every time he would get this, if it stopped, he'd get this urinary infection. And he said, what can we do? So we put him onto garlic and probiotics and aloe vera, and oh my gracious me, it totally changed his life. He couldn't believe it. He said, I'm off antibiotics, off everything. You want that good bacteria, whether you got bladder infections, whether you got male infections down there, absolutely important. It's just great to, you remember that 70 to 80% of health starts in the gut, so you want to get that colon right, right? So your immune system starts in your gut. And so you want to get your gut health right, and so can help you boost your immune system. This is so important over here that it helps you fight depression.